In 1969, a group of astronauts changed the world. They walked on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
In 1972, our journey ended. We've never been back. 2010 begins a year of change. Private companies are working on next-generation spaceships. Governments are looking to go back to the moon and on to Mars. It's time to look up and dream again. It's time to push humans into the cosmos. It's time to educate and engage the planet. It's time for Spacevidcast.
Welcome to Spacevidcast. As you can see, we are not in our regular studio. We are in this pimped out, totally geeky, a little rickety studio.
With two darts, dueling darts.
We are in Washington, D.C. We are actually in Baltimore. Is that correct?
All right, hang on. First off, we have a studio audience. Studio audience, give me an epic applause. Hey! Wow! That was way better than in Grecia. That's awesome. So, studio audience, where the heck are we again?
We are just south of Cockeysville, known in Maryland.
Just south of Cockeysville. Isn't that where every girl wants to be?
It's a family show. This is a family show, people. We are your Spacevidcasters. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, is the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbothams. It is the show for Friday, August 27th, 2010, 3:29. And, wow, you know, all right, hang on. Tell the story on how we got to this point and why we're so scatterbrained at this point.
How we got to this point?
Yeah.
So everything was totally smooth sailing. Like, the flight was great. We got to the hotel just fine. We even checked in, like, well before we were supposed to check in. We get up to the room. We called some friends in D.C. They were like, do you want to have lunch? We said, yeah. Can we take a shower first? They said, yes, of course. No problem.
Okay, maybe less detail.
No, but the point is that, like, everything was totally smooth sailing. Some more friends came in. They said, hey, we're going to be at the Air and Space Museum. We were like, oh, we're right there, no problem. We drive over, we park, it's great. We do a little experiment thing for SpaceUp DC, which you'll see tomorrow. And then we were like, oh, let's go inside and play some games. And I totally won, by the way. I won! Off of everybody else, but that's totally not the point.
We need to come back to that. That was pretty cool.
Point is that we're like, hey, we really gotta go, because we have to hit the hotel, and then we gotta drive all the way up to Baltimore. Not a big deal. Hey, where'd the car go? The car? Yeah, the car. Used to be right there. Now there's a big empty hole. Where'd the car go?
Our car was towed. Because we did find out when you park for 4 hours in a 2-hour parking zone, they will move your car. So
which is really weird because, I mean, really, we weren't there that much longer. It was just like double or something.
But it's fun because we've been in Washington, D.C.
Ben's phone is dead at this point. My phone is dying quickly. The computer, the camera, the tripod, all in the back of the car. We basically have nothing other than our clothes, which is back at the hotel, which we can't walk to because it's like 20 minutes away easy. That's like with no traffic. So I called Tim and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is the phone number, but it just keeps ringing. He goes, well, that's really funny because some really nasty woman just answered it for me. And I was like, great. Hang up. Finally find the car. Oh, yeah, it's over here. Where's that? No idea. We have to ask, like, 8 people. Finally get the car. What time is it? We don't have time to go back to the hotel. We have to go back to the hotel. But we don't have time to go back to the hotel.
It was a fun, epic adventure of epicness. Now, the chat room's asking, they want to go into space because, it's a space show. And they're asking some questions about when are we going to go back to the moon? Is China going to go? A lot of these questions will actually be answered tomorrow during SpaceUp DC. Here's a quick promo. So, yeah, that's going to be really awesome. And for those who've never been to any sort of bar camp or SpaceUp or any conference like UnConference, it's not like a traditional conference. When you go to Spacevidcast, actually it'll be starting tonight, but more for tomorrow morning. The page is going to be broken into a grid. And it's going to be pod 1, 2, 3, and 4, which represents the 4 different rooms that will be broadcast from SpaceUp. And we will broadcast in all 4 available rooms, but the topics you'll see, if you look at the page, say nothing is set yet, no topic at this time. And the reason is because there are no topics. You, as the SpaceUp attendees, set the topic. You walk up to the board and say, I'm interested in when will we go back to the moon? What are China's plans for whatever? And you decide what you want to talk about. And then you pick what time you want, and then other people who are interested in your topic will show up in your pod, and you guys will have a group discussion for an hour, 90 minutes, whatever it may be, all broadcast live through the interwebs, and then you can ask your questions in real time online as well through the integrated chat room. We'll have people monitoring the chat room and making sure that
we have lackeys.
Yeah, we have lackeys. It's going to be
Pretty
awesome. So if you want to do that, participate live. Even if you weren't able to attend. Now, the big advantage of being able to attend is you get to walk up to the whiteboard and set those topics.
Yes.
Being an internet user, you have no control over it. Whatever the attendees here set as topics, that's what you will have to view. You have no say. If you wanted to say, you'd have to show up in person. That's one of the advantages of showing up in person. We also will not be streaming the lunches. There's also a feature called Ignite Talks, which are really cool. That's where you've got, someone help me out with the details. It's like a 20 slides. 20 slides, 5 minutes, 15 seconds each slide.
Thank you, Vax.
And you have no control over the slides. And so your PowerPoint presentation is just going, whether you want it to or not. And you have to give your presentation on your idea. And if you go to the SpaceUp DC website, spaceupdc.org, they will detail all the different Ignite Talks that they've got scheduled. I think there are 6 or 8 Ignite Talks right now. And we're considering making one about Spacevidcast just to throw Dornbos, throw him a little curveball at the end there.
Might as well.
So it's going to be really cool. We're really excited, and that's why we're here in Baltimore, Washington, D.C. That's why we're in Washington, D.C.
That's why
area.
we're in Virginia.
Exactly. That's why we're in the area, because we were going to be streaming that, hopefully all of that live on the internets. We do, like I said, we have in-studio guests, and we have VAXHeadroom, who has been on the show before, and he brought props.
Yeah, GLXP was like, what's that next to Carrie Ann? I wish I could tell you.
Can I borrow it? You want to come up and show off some of your toys?
But it's really cool.
All right, so we have toys, and we thought it would be kind of fun to just show off some space toys.
So this, first off, I'll say I work for Northrop Grumman, the technical services sector. We're a legacy organization from Lytton. Northrop Grumman bought Lytton in 2001, and so now I'm a Northrop Grumman employee. And this is a model of one of the antennas that we build and have built. One very similar to this is on the Mars Phoenix lander.
Cool.
Now, of course, inoperable on the pole of
Not
Mars.
because of the antenna, though.
The antenna worked great, but you can, if you hold that, you'll see that that's
that's got some weight.
Pretty massive. It's billet. It's all machined out of billet aluminum.
Why is it so? Why don't they make it lighter? I mean, weight is
the one that's on Mars is lighter. This one was a prototype for something else, but it's very similar to this. Now the other one we have here is a. This one's much lighter. That one would actually be on a satellite. That's cool. That's an S-band Omni antenna.
I don't know if you can, how well you guys can see that. Yeah, like that. Nope, like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Let's do like one of those. That doesn't work either.
So yeah, that's a very lightweight
It
antenna.
is. It's really, and it looks like this looks like a BNC connection on the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, not quite. That's a little
pretty
RF
close.
Connection.
It's a threaded. It's a threaded. It's a TNC. It's a threaded connection.
Okay.
So that they screw on very securely, but this is all machined out of one solid piece of aluminum.
That's cool.
There's no brazed weld lines here. It's all just machined.
Kind of like the same techniques they use on the.
There's nothing to it.
Yeah.
Feels really cool too.
And so that would fly into space.
Yeah, that's a prototype for a real satellite antenna. Now the biggest piece I got to have. This is really pretty cool.
This is craziness.
This is massive.
Looks wrong.
That looks like it's something out of like 1980.
This is it's kind of that level of technology. Let's see. I'm going to move over just a little bit so it's not behind the microphone. This is a printed wiring board. This is a solder test article for a printed wiring board that is actually being built. The system for this is being built right now. The Global Precipitation Monitor, GPM, being built out of Goddard Space Flight Center, and my group is actually building the power system for that. We're building the avionics, and the engineering work is being done at Goddard, and we manufacture it at our facility. So you can see it's got black magic markers on it.
Yeah,
It says, "Don't fly this one." So.
Kind of like when you go in for
But
surgery,
this is the
they're
size.
like, not this
This is
way.
the size of the power system on GPM.
I mean, that's the actual size. They would not shrink that down.
This is the real thing.
Wow.
Well, you can see
Other than the marker.
the markers, but you can see it's a redundant power system. So there's one whole section for A, one whole section for B, and so these say PMC. This is the print. This is the power monitor computer. Output modules 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So these have solid state switches on them. There's a HM module. I think that's the one of the charge controllers. And then there's solar array modules and another solar array, two sets of solar panels.
But
and
why
A and
is
B.
it so large compared to the electronics that I'd seen like a cell phone or anything else? Is it just a lot of stuff? I mean, it doesn't.
There's just a lot of stuff, and there's two of everything.
I suppose.
So it's fully redundant. I mean, the one side of the power system is this big, and for comparison, I have a chassis from the power system that flew on Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. So.
Cool. LR. Which, by the way, for those who don't know, Vax personally crashed L-Cross into the moon.
All right, so I got two things here. Let's bring. Oh, okay. So we'll bring this up
I
first.
feel like I should move this way because your stuff is more interesting.
You
than
watch
I am.
the.
Yes. I told you. By the end of the show, I will fall backwards.
Yeah, all I just moved was in the seat.
Right. So this is a much smaller card. This is the backplane card for the power system for the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and we built an identical copy of this for L-Cross. So there's one of these that looks just like this, an L-Cross that's on the moon, and one that's flying around the moon. Nice. This is the power buses that the power systems connect into, and then the cards, the backplanes for the cards solder through here as well.
Well, let's be realistic. One of them's embedded in the moon.
And it's shattered in pieces. But you also feel how thick that is. If you've ever felt a printed wire.
Oh my gosh!
It's
That's
built like
solid.
like armor.
Is that a space thing? Just space hardened to make sure that it can withstand vibrations
It doesn't,
and whatnot?
right. Part of that's vibration. Part of it's just the fact that it's an 18-layer circuit card, and it's made out of Kevlar. So it really is bulletproof. But it's very, very stiff, so that that you don't want things to flex.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't want things to expand and contract when they get hot and cold, because that would break the solder joints.
But you've got metal on here. Isn't that metal going to expand and contract? Because I mean, you're
Right.
going to go through rapid changes in temperature, aren't you? With
Right.
this, when the sun hits it versus when it doesn't.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about, what is it, a 400-degree shift in space or something like that?
Yeah, especially at the moon. You get reflection back off the moon. It gets really
So
hot.
how do you deal with that? Because I mean, you're not going to be able to prevent that metal from.
Well, you can see how many places it's soldered in here, and
Yep.
it's just very. I mean, this is Kevlar. It's very rigid.
So
if the metal
they just don't let it.
You just don't-
Kevlar.
yeah, we just
Did
don't
you
let it.
miss that part?
Bulletproof.
Yeah, bulletproof. So here's the box that goes in.
Oh my god.
All right. So
I love the nat. That's so awesome.
This is the power system chassis. This is an engineering model for the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter.
This is probably the coolest thing I've ever seen.
And this is
It's a box.
It's a box.
It's but this was if they needed to, could they have flown this on LRO? Was this just a secondary unit if they wanted to fly this?
I think that probably that's true. The only difference between this and L-Cross is the fact that we didn't fly as many output modules, and so they have all these different cards in them. On L-Cross, these are all blank. There's a new plate that we had made that doesn't have as many openings. Mm-hmm. So you can see a little bit about how this is constructed. I don't know if you can see this on the video, but there's screws all the way around each plate.
That's yeah.
And,
That's like each one of these little
Yeah, I'm trying to see how much.
bunches.
Right, and so each of these, there's actually 6 plates, right, and each plate is machined out of billet aluminum. You can see them.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure you can't
They
see this on
can,
this,
but
you,
we can.
you can see the machining marks on here. Maybe we'll try and take a good picture of this.
Yeah.
And post it in
and
the,
post it on the
yeah,
post it on
absolutely.
the room. So here you can see a little bit where the machining marks are changed, and this is black anodized aluminum and then silk screened. So there's one of these currently flying around the moon.
And it's very important to have the NASA meatball flying around the moon as well. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
it doesn't work as well.
Yeah,
You need to know
absolutely.
whose junk it is up there.
That's right.
Need to know. That's my
really
junk.
cool.
I got one more piece.
Did you save the best for last?
No, actually, that's
See,
that's
all
kind
right.
of
See,
best.
right. It is a pretty cool piece.
All right, this is kind of neat though because you can see into it. So this is the box is called the Propulsion and Deployment Electronics box. This is the box that fires relays and fires the thrusters, there's a plate that goes on that as well. But you can see that these pieces they actually come apart. But again, the whole thing is machined out of billet aluminum. This is one solid block of aluminum, and it's all machined.
It's funny because
There's no brazing, there's no welding on here.
That's a
They're
lot
all-
like my laptop, my MacBook Pro. They just have it machined out of
It's
one
all-
piece of.
Was
yeah.
it?
Yeah, but that looks way cooler.
It does actually. Now I want my MacBook Pro made out of that.
There you go. But this is just aluminum. It's not that heavy.
Right.
Yeah, you see if you hold it, you've got a little
Well, it
bit of
still
mass.
has some weight to
It's
it.
got some
I mean,
mass to it.
You know, when I
Solid.
think space, I think doing anything and everything you can to make it feather light, so that you don't have to lift it up. But
Yeah, but
that's
you,
got
you
some.
still need it to be substantial.
Yeah, oh, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, but yeah, it's that plate that I think is.
Right.
It's all coming from down there.
So this is designed. This system is designed. Actually, you can take multiples of these units and stack them together, the way that it's built. So it's somewhat modular.
Nice. That's very cool.
Now you have to play show and tell with the studio audience.
So, right. Well, all of these are going to be at
Take one,
SpaceUp
test
DC.
around.
So
Yep.
if you're going to be there tomorrow, because they're engineering units or they're factory seconds or they're test articles, they'll be out with the Northrop Grumman table. We can actually pick them up and take a look.
That's
at them
awesome.
and
So
see what
anyone joining SpaceUp DC in person can play with them just like we did now and see all the. She's working to see. I've
I
got
just wanna make
inches-
sure.
I've got inches left.
Just want to make sure.
The chat room, I think, wants me to fall. It's gonna be fun.
Yep.
So, and then tell me more about. I know we had you on before. I just like making you lean over because you are tall. We are actually, just so everyone knows, we are on a platform. Obviously, we're sitting. You're standing another, however many inches lower, and you still have to lean down quite a bit.
Yeah,
I bet if I were to stand up on the platform, you'd still be taller than I am.
well, probably. What are you, 6? Almost 6 foot?
Not
Almost
quite
like
6.
5'10", 5'11".
I'm 6'4".
Yeah.
we're-
Yes, that's just impressive. So you also worked on LRO, more specifically L-Cross.
I worked on
believe.
L-Cross. I did not work on LRO.
So, and then you.
My group built the LRO hardware, but I didn't. I'm the software engineer, and we just built L-Cross. The software for LRO was done at Goddard Space Flight Center.
And L-Cross was kind of wasn't really, I don't want to call it a skunk works project, but it was kind of
Almost.
right. It was kind of a we can do this. It's going to be a high risk mission, but it's going to be kind of cool.
Apparently, Vax is the tall, sexy beast that terrorizes the moon.
And that's the voice too. That goes
I'll
with
take
that.
that.
Hello, ladies. How are you? Fantastic.
Oh, I wish I had that audio to play. He's actually done that for us. So yeah, no, I think it's really cool that you do the software, but do you
Yeah.
regularly interact with the hardware as well to kind of see what's going
Well,
on?
the group that I'm part of is about 120 people, and almost half of those work as contract engineers over at Goddard. So the group that actually works at my facility is a pretty small group, 60 to 80 people. And in that we have system engineers, hardware engineers, a lot of manufacturing people, and business management folks and stuff like that too. So there's only a couple of software engineers and maybe a half a dozen electrical engineers, and then a couple 6-8 printed wiring board and mechanical engineers that work for the group. So we work very much a very small group.
Well,
And I get involved in a lot of systems engineering, not just software. So.
What's your favorite part of doing all this?
Boy, I don't know. I started out doing software just as a student, and I liked solving problems. And there's no more complicated problem, and there's no more challenging environment that I've ever found as working on satellites. There's just an infinite amount to learn, and it's just as picky as it can get, and so it just challenges you all the time. And I get to work with really smart people.
I can imagine.
Someone
It's
is
just
wondering
really
what
great.
language you're using.
The software for the flight software is generally all C and lightly C++. We do very lightly object-oriented programming. You don't want to do too much of that because then it gets what they call non-deterministic. You don't know for certain when things are going to happen because the software may allocate and deallocate memory or things like that, and you need to avoid that in an embedded system that needs to run for potentially years. So, in fact, I was over at the first satellite I worked on was Earth Observing 1, and I was over at the Mission Operations Center for that today. One of their secondary processors had a reboot yesterday because it had what they call a multi-bit error. It had errors in the RAM that were induced by radiation, and so this processor rebooted, and so they were asking me questions about it. So, but the main processor has never rebooted on that satellite, and it's been flying for 9.5 years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that's actually
lots of uptime.
That's a big deal because we had was it MRO that went into reboot loops or was it Odyssey?
I think it was Odyssey.
One of the objects flying around Mars was going into, the right side would fail, it would come back up, then the left side would fail, and it would come back up. And, you've got this multi-million-dollar object that takes over 7 minutes to send a command to see what's going on, and then 7 minutes, or more, depending upon where Mars is at the time, for that command to come back. It was very difficult to troubleshoot that stuff.
Yeah. The other operations center that's in the adjacent room with Earth Observing 1 is the Wilkinson MAP probe, microwave anisotropy probe, that's looking at the background radiation of the universe, and that has come near to its end of its life, mostly because they've mapped the sky now 18 times, and there's not really any new data that they're going to get out of it by doing it 19 or 20 times. But they need to dispose of the satellite because it's at the Earth-Sun L2 Lagrange point, which is where the James Webb Space Telescope is going to go. So they need that one. They need the Wilkinson MAP probe out of there. Mm-hmm. They're talking about disposing of it by slamming it into the moon. That's not for sure yet, but then they would be able to do something similar to what we did with LCROSS and have LRO be able to look at the result.
And we already have an in-house expert in software who knows how to slam things into the moon.
Yeah, the guys who are working MAP are really slick. I haven't actually even talked to those guys in a couple of years. It's been working well enough. I haven't. Yeah, I did write flight software for that. It was one of the first things I worked on. But
you have more from the chat room.
No, I mean, they're.
But that's really new, and that's not for sure yet. NASA headquarters is still kind of making the decision what they're going to do with WMAP. I mean, it's a pretty big satellite. It's a lot bigger than the shepherding spacecraft was for LCROSS. It's not as big as the Centaur, but it's pretty neat. But right now, it's at the L2 Lagrange point, which is about 1 million miles further out from the Earth than away from the sun. It's about 1 million miles out, and it follows the Earth around the sun. Mm-hmm. So they have about 50. I think they said they have 50 kilograms of fuel left. So they got to get rid of it somehow. So they're just going to fly it to the moon.
That doesn't seem like a lot of fuel. How much fuel does it take?
I have no idea. I just tell you how to turn the thrusters on. I don't know what to really make it work.
Fair enough. More questions from the chat room? I want to give them a chance to. By the way, Vax you'll be at both days of SpaceUp, right? Yep. So he'll be in pods 1 through 4 throughout the next 2 days. So if you have additional questions for him, you can hit him up in there. I don't know if you'll have a direct link to the chat room at the time, but we'll certainly have our minions checking the chat room as well.
We have minions. I'm really excited.
That's the voice. That's exactly the voice. Awesome.
Hey, Keith.
Hey, Keith.
There we go.
Is Keith, Keith, are you coming to SpaceUp?
No dying. Yeah. Now we have to wait for the internet lag.
Yeah,
see, it's. Does anyone else want to come up? We can have a little fun, happy party. You don't have to. I have pictures too, so I don't want to make this an awkward moment for everyone.
Don't jump at once.
All right. At the very least, give me very loud applause. I'll accept that. Did they?
No, I think you're good. There you go.
And thank you for the use of the space and helping us set all of this up.
For sure.
No problem. Glad you could use it.
Yep. This is. We've commandeered the set. We're not giving it back.
Ben has already licked and/or peed just about everything here.
That's just awkward, but it's true. It's true. No, I like it was. it was kind of
for donating your chair.
It was kind of nice sitting down and having like all the lights just like boop, ready to go. I'm like, oh, that's weird. We don't normally have that happen. And I did want to show everyone one other really quick thing, and this is a new milestone for us. Carrie, you want to talk about this? Here you guys go. I'll let Carrie Ann describe what you're seeing here.
It's pretty evident what you're seeing. Did you want to drop the chat for that?
Oh, you
So
know,
can
I
see
will.
the
I will
bottom
for
of
just a
that?
second here. Here you go.
There you go. So, this is the biggest mistake someone has ever made.
That's pretty much the right way. Hang on, let me. There's a bigger shot of it.
There's a bigger shot. Oh, it looks good against the pale skin, though. Really.
He's in the chat room.
I know, Zigger, I love you. No, this is so Zigger, Ziggr, in the room, much like Tigger, but with a Z, went out, unbeknownst to us, and on his own accord. I just want to say, there was no money exchanged. There were no threats to his family. He did this all on his own. Went out and went through an enormous amount of pain, and got 3 tattoos
Let
all
me
on
go
the
back to the
same.
other one.
Yeah,
Blammo.
all on the same day. Of the NASA meatball, the STS-130 patch, which is beautiful.
Yeah, look at that. They did a fantastic job with that.
And then this blue blob right on top, and I don't even know what that is. It's so unclear. No, the artist did an amazing job. You even get kind of the sort of glimmer off of the sort of Apple-ish button that it kind of is. And yeah, we got these pictures today, and Ben had such a reaction to it. I thought someone had died. I was scared for a moment because he said things that I can't actually say on air, but basically, oh my God. And I was like, what happened? He was like, we just passed a milestone. I didn't think we would ever come near. And I was like, oh, really? And that's
Someone tattooed our old logo.
And that is actually the first thing he said. And I said, well, we can't change it now. So, Zigger, honestly, my hat's off to you. I'm very humbled that you would donate your skin to such a cause.
Well, Jeffrey cut that. And we wanted to mess with him and be like, wow, I can't believe you did the old logo. Why didn't you wait for the new one to come out?
We did almost email back and be like, wow, man, that's really bad timing on your part. You really should have asked. But no, of course, there's a whiteout, he says. I need whiteout. My kingdom for whiteout. Yeah, but no, they're beautiful. They're very, very well done. They're very, very clean, crisp, clear. And I personally am extremely honored. I don't have any tattoos, let alone my own logo. So, yeah.
So, you know, I do want to say this has been a woefully random show, but, you know, that's why you guys love us.
Right.
You know, I think it's what, you know, Vax brought up was really freaking cool. I love that stuff. I hope you guys will stop over by the table and check it out at SpaceUp
Try not
DC.
kick it.
We'll get some better pictures for the website so you can see it. If you're watching this on YouTube, head over to spacevidcast.com, search for 3.29, and then click on that post. You'll see we won't make those epic. We'll post those for everyone to see.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I just think it's a lot of fun having everyone. We've got Steve in the room as well, who is the author of the awesome software we use to broadcast this show. I should have simulated a crash right there.
You should have.
I absolutely should have. Broadcast. Ask this show. We've got Pete.
Yay!
We have more arrivals. Everyone, applaud really loudly again. I love this power. Tim showed up, and I can't see who else. That was, by the way, Porkchop you saw on, what? It was just...
The guy not Vax?
Not Vax.
There we
Porkchop.
are.
3 very hairy people.
Then we've got
It is
Pete
kinda hard
in
to tell you
studio.
apart.
Yeah, so why... Actually, yeah, coming up for a minute, why are you guys... Have you guys been to a SpaceUp before?
No.
And are you going to this one because it's local or because...
Local. It's local that makes it easy, but I'd still love to go to another one if it was someplace else I could get to.
Well, the whole idea behind the UnConference is that you have local ones all over the world, so you don't have to travel. But what are you expecting to get out of this one? Why spend your valuable weekend?
That's a good question.
20 questions, answer, go.
Because you said so, Ben, and
It's a great
anything
deal
you
of
say
knowledge.
goes.
I got to see, I got to see a lot of the San Diego ones Spacevidcast.
Some of it.
So when it wasn't crashing.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll have more bandwidth this time. You should.
We hope
University.
so. Yeah, we'll see.
But that was, it was really fun. I wanted to be there, and since there's one now local that I can get to, at least on Saturday.
That was basically it. It's local. I can get to it, and there are a lot of people there that I'm really interested in seeing and talking to. I go to a lot of conferences, but this is the first space conference that I've been to. I go to a lot of technical conferences and things like that, and I get a lot out of them for those things. And I want to learn a lot about more about space, but I've got no way to do it other than, well, here we are. We've got SpaceUp DC coming in.
How'd you guys become space geeks? I mean, what led you into the nerdism that is space?
Used to take vacations on the Gulf Coast of Florida, and then drive over to the Space Coast to visit my grandparents. And one day on the beeline going across Florida, I look out and see this plume of smoke going up. Hooked.
Awesome.
One launch.
Yeah, Atlantis.
Boom! Right there. Power of Atlantis. What can I say?
The Atlantis.
I have no idea why I got nerdy. No idea, but I have the posters from the early '80s, in my room as growing up, and all those sorts of things. And I always loved technology, and space is just really big, really cool technology. A lot of technology that we use today comes from the space program. So I'm really just excited to see exploration and continuing, doing stuff that's not necessarily going into the backyard. There's a little bit more danger, a little bit more involved, a lot more thinking going on in trying to get to these new big places like the moon and later hopefully Mars and further out. So that's really it's a big problem, and I love working on problems and technology.
I want to put Tim on the spot. Where'd Tim go? Tim, come up
You're in
here.
the blind spot.
Yeah, we can't see you. So Tim just arrived. You did the dedicated hour and a half long drive this way, this further, this way. Next to it, you like our darts?
I do.
Yeah, dueling darts.
Dueling darts.
You're not local.
No.
So why did you... Yeah.
Gracefully
Do it. Yes. Yes. No! Why did you... Just right back into it. Why did you decide to come all the way up here? There you go. To SpaceUp. I mean, why do the travel?
Well, number one, I did watch some of the SpaceUp from Spacevidcast, and so I got to see all the cool stuff that was going on. And you guys play over and over again the Space is Boring,
Yep.
which is just a phenomenally interesting video to watch because it was done by someone outside the space program that came to a space conference that wouldn't normally come to a normal space conference.
Right.
And it brought such a different flavor to it when he said, who are these people in mission control? What are they doing? These people have names! And just that soundbite has become such a big rallying point for Spacevidcast and for other people that it's amazing to see that type of new ideas that come from outside and really make a huge impact. So I wanted to be here and see that and be able to interact with it more than I could online. To actually be here to be part of that process and throw in ideas and really create what's next for the space program. I feel like this is that time when space is at a flux. The budget's unknown. Commercial space people are finally in the mix enough where they can actually do something cool and build their own rockets and launch them successfully. So this is the time to be there. This would be the time where if I was ever going to do something cool in space, if I was ever going to make a big impact, this is where it starts at, and this is the type of environment that you would come to make that happen.
Which, coming from someone like Tim, those are big words.
Oh yeah, just small resume. Yuris Night, what is the executive team? What's the
Global executive
global
team for
executive
Yuris
team? Which, by the way, is a global party, a huge, gigantic one.
Global isn't just a word being thrown around.
Actually,
it really
it's more than just the Earth. It's also on the International Space Station and other alien planets that receive this broadcast. They just don't transmit back. And you're also are you the president chapter of NSS Florida, or you were? You are?
Yep, I'm the president of the National Space Society's Florida Space Coast chapter. So we hosted the 2009 International Space Development Conference that you guys were at, that we got to host a lot of cool speakers and see that. So I've done things like that. I do 0G, so I'm up as a flight director. I go floating around, woo, keeping everybody safe inside the airplane.
So you're not a noob, right? I mean,
No.
you've been in this. You're integral. I mean, this is what you do.
And a lot of new space part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't necessarily come from, seriously
entrenched space. Eh?
So when are we going to see SpaceUp Space Coast?
That's in the works. That's one of the other reasons why I wanted to come here, was because it's such a... I saw SpaceUp San Diego online, and I thought, wow, that's so cool. We should do one of those. But I have no idea how to do it. I've never been to one of these unconferences. I've never been to a bar camp. I'm a little nervous about doing it without at least seeing and being at one first.
Right.
So this is, the test run. All right, I want to come here. I want to see how it's being done. Jen Shear, Flying Jenny, is here. Tiffany Titus, who is Astro Girly, is here as well. So I brought some of the Florida crew in with me.
Boom!
And so we're learning as we're here too. How do these conferences work? What do we need to do to be able to put on one of these in Florida, where we have a whole lot of people that want to know what's next for them, and they don't have a whole lot of things that they're looking forward to. So this is a great way to create what's the conference that we need in Florida. What is the message that the aerospace workers need that are down there that are no longer going to be working on shuttle? What's the next message we want to put out? And what's the future of space in Florida that we want to create? And so that's one of the reasons that I'm here, is not just space in general, but specifically, what do we need to put in the mix so that Florida has a future in space that's bigger and brighter than what it's had in the past?
I think it's worth pointing out that SpaceUp doesn't have to just be in Washington, D.C., in Florida, and in San Diego.
It could even be in Podunk, Minneapolis.
Anyone can start a SpaceUp, and it doesn't take... It's not like you have to, go through all this red tape to do it. I mean, you just basically contract Chris and off you go. Wait, yeah, right?
Really? Chris just hands you a SpaceUp packet?
There's a baton. There's a baton.
The baton.
There's
There is a baton, though. There is a baton, so there is that.
But my point... Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I've done a big conference. I mean, ISDC took 3 years to plan and execute, basically. And it was 700 people, to 1,000 people were in attendance, plus we had people online. We had all these, big-name speakers, and putting together the panel sessions and the individual breakout sessions and meal fun. It was just such a circus to try to put together and orchestrate, and it worked out phenomenally well, and it was a great learning experience. But one thing I love about SpaceUp is that literally from scratch we can do one in 4 months.
Oh yeah.
If we want to, we can release it and do it in 4 months. And Mike has been a big person saying all you need is space and a sign-up sheet, and you can have a SpaceUp. And that's just such a radical departure from the normal way that I think of doing conferences. It's more like a Yuris Night, If you want to have one, go have one. There's no specific way it has to look. And so I'm really excited to see how this all turns out, and what do program grids look like, and how do you make those work, and do we use Post-it notes, and do they have to be different colors, and all those thoughts are in my head.
Yes, and yes. But you brought up Yuris Night as well, and I think it's important to note that SpaceUp isn't just for space nerds. You can bring anyone into a SpaceUp, and we're talking about really cool tech. We're talking about things that people want to talk about. That's the advantage of SpaceUp.
And all age groups.
Yeah.
We've, SpaceUp, I keep saying DC because that's where we
SD.
are. SD. Little Benjamin came along, and we had a couple of high school kids, and we had a couple of college kids. It's all age groups, because there's anyone who's interested in space and wants to know anything more about space or wants to contribute to anything space can at a SpaceUp.
And I think you can even get your tech friends. If you're a space geek and you've got technology friends who are kind of tech geeks, they like their iPhones with their more GBs and their...
Had to throw that.
I had to throw that in there.
Okay.
With the bigger GBs. I don't care.
I don't care.
And the an Android phone, whatever. The tech geeks, most tech geeks, deep down inside, really deep down there, somewhere in there, they're a space geek too. Maybe they don't know it yet. Maybe they were a space geek and they'd forgotten that they're a space geek. Well, a conference like SpaceUp, maybe that will reignite that passion. And maybe it's not SpaceUp. I mean, we're here at SpaceUp, but you brought up Yuris Night. Yuris Night is a great place because it's a giant party. It's just a giant party celebrating humanity, essentially is what it is. Mm-hmm. And it's a fantastic place to bring people who, again, maybe they're tech geeks, maybe they're not tech geeks, maybe they're just friends, and you're like, let's go to a party. And then when they're there and they see all the people dressed up in their epically awesome outfits, because they are awesome, maybe they'll start asking questions. And it's not like you have to spend lots of money to do this stuff. Many of these things can be done for free. So go to Yuris Night, schedule a party. Go to SpaceUp, schedule a SpaceUp. Be proactive in your community and start getting the word out there. We are the ones who can change the world by igniting that passion in other people. And it's not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of time commitment on your part to schedule these things and make them happen.
And I know Spacevidcast tagline is making space commonplace. And I think a lot of people consider this like, we have to come to SpaceUp and learn about space things. Or you have to go to Yuris Night, and you're gonna pull your friend to Yuris Night, but then they'll learn about space while they're there. And sometimes it's not even that complicated. Sometimes it's just that you get to come to a SpaceUp or a Yuris Night and go have a good time. You're dancing and there's music and you meet cool people. And it's only later you realize, oh yeah, that guy was a scientist and he put a rover on Mars. That's sort of cool. I didn't know that I would be able to, talk to somebody like that. And they're not like a, Poindexter with their, lab coat on all the time. They actually get out and they have a good time.
Right.
And when you come to SpaceUp and somebody's got their pajamas on, but they're talking about the economics of interplanetary systems and how the resource management works to make sure that economies don't collapse.
Talking about you, Chris.
I mean, those kinds of things are crazy out, but it breaks down the barriers that people have saying, I don't fit the mold of somebody who does this type of thing.
Right.
Anybody can go to a Yuris Night party and you can wear a suit and tie, you can wear a Darth Vader outfit.
Or two.
Kraft last came to our Space Coast Yuris Night, and she had green hair and this crazy silver leotard, and she's up there singing Bake Sale for NASA, and it's just an acoustic song that she wrote. She's a songwriter and performer. It's not like she's a big space nerd, but she came and she saw how enthusiastic everybody was, and the enthusiasm is what got her, not how many pounds of thrust a space shuttle has or how many satellites are orbiting the Earth at any one time. It was just that people were excited about something that was forward-looking, that was inspiring, and that's what got her. And I think that's what gets a lot of people at these events is, hey, you come to a Yuris Night, it's awesome, they're cool people, we have, maybe U2 is going to play at Yuris Night or something like that. It's just... Would you like to have you?
Maybe. Really? We didn't see what's going on there.
Not dropping any hints.
If you know U2, we'd love to have them. Not to put anybody else out. I'm just saying.
That's awesome.
That kind of stuff happens, and it's amazing to see. When I see a former astronaut who's now a center director for a NASA center, and he's out there doing the hula dance on the dance floor, in competition with the other astronauts that are hulaing along with him, and the little kid and some engineer and somebody's mom is out there, and they're all doing the fruitcake, and they have to do this way, and none of them know what they're doing. It was just so relatable. Like, oh my God, if I was out there, I'd be doing that same thing. I have no idea how to hula dance. That's awesome. And that's what I think all of these things afford to people, is to make it a little more commonplace, to make space accessible, and to make the people that make space happen more real. You guys are in there, and you're making space happen every day by putting it out there, by being a public service to the world, putting, space in terms that people can understand and making it accessible.
Shiny.
Yes. What? I mean, look at this. I just walked into a building and came behind these shiny lights, and all of a sudden I'm on camera. That's how it works. That's how easy it is. All you have to do is walk in, and you're in the space program. It's so fun. And that's a message people don't get all the time. All you have to do is walk in, and you're there. Awesome. I'm in space now.
I think that's something that we as space advocates sometimes forget. We get so stuck on what vehicle is going where, what types of infrastructure we're going to need to get to the moon.
Which orbiter is best.
Which orbiter is best, exactly. What destination we're going to choose next, where the money is flowing. But at the end of the day, none of that actually matters. It's all about getting people excited. It's about the people. If the people don't care, the rest of the program doesn't matter. And so we need to get people excited and engaged about this stuff. And the rest of it, all the technical stuff, it will fall into place. It always does. There are many ways to get to the moon. And maybe we start at the moon, maybe we go to Mars. It doesn't matter. So long as we go, that's what matters. And if we can get people excited about this stuff again, that's all it takes. I really do believe that's all it takes. Just got to get people to go to a party and dance and hang out with astronauts and be like, wow, I never realized that X, Y, or Z. And you know what? You don't even have to oh, that reminds me. Today,
Yes?
we were on an adventure.
Adventure.
We were required to do that in the show.
Oh. Yes.
Adventure. So, anyhow, that's my
Rachel.
soapbox, is that we get so hung up on these technical details that just don't matter. At the end of the day, none of them matter, because if people don't care, then why are you going to all that work? So, there you go.
Well, thanks for what you guys do, and thanks for being here at SpaceUp DC.
Thanks for letting me just rip you out of the crowd and come on. All right. On that note, I think we've gone long enough.
Way longer than we should.
Away.
Yeah.
We are done with you
Tim
now.
to mission control. So, any final questions and comments from the chat room before we call it a night and prep for SpaceUp DC live coverage? Now we wait. We have to do awkward silence for about 25 to 30 seconds while we wait for everything to check. Oh yeah, the transcribers are. Oh, that reminds me. How we have?
Hi, John.
We have, I think, 8 seats of transcription.
Scared the
That
crap
almost-
out of me.
I almost-
thought
the
that
sa-
was gonna go right on my head.
The same thing happened on last week's show. So last week was my 100th show, and SpaceVidcast 100th show, but this week is Carrie Ann's 100th show. Yeah, all right. And so Porkchop and gang
cold.
got her a. Is there something we don't know? Awkward.
Not on this show.
A carrot cake
Awesome.
with extra frosting.
The frosting's the best part.
It is the best part.
You only
So
have
we're
the
going to
frosting
consume
to
that.
bounce off
Did
the
we hit any
carrots.
questions before we? Or do you need a place to set it? I can't move that computer actually.
Nope. I am happy right here.
All right, moon pie.
Just give me a fork and I'm good.
All right. On that note, oh my god. Oh, before we go,
Extra frosting.
before we go, one last thing. I do want to point out there are some people on different channels that always want us to be a news entity and always just giving you nothing but the news, just straight up the news. That's not who we are, and there are many different places online that you can find that. And we like to have fun with it. We like to laugh. We like to giggle. We like to bring people in. We like to talk about the experience. That's who we are, and that's who we're going to continue to be because that's what we like to do. So,
And we don't know how to be anybody else.
And we don't know how to be anybody
Have
else.
you seen us try to be serious?
and
It doesn't work out so well.
what we do is not hard. And if you think that there is a gap and an opening for a pure space news show, I encourage you to start one. It's not hard to do. It doesn't take really any money. You probably already have all the equipment necessary to make it go. And we need a lot more people to evangelize this stuff. And there are a lot of different holes that need to be filled. One of them is a very serious space news show that's just straight space news. Every day, 5-minute video clip. And then we have, we like to fill the more casual, fun, energetic.
Space news.
Yeah, exactly, whatever it takes. And then you've got every level in between. So, maybe video's not your thing. Maybe it's podcasts. Maybe it's just going out, putting a telescope on the sidewalk and getting people encouraged to look at the stars. Whatever it takes, do that. All right, on that note, we're going to eat some cake. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you at SpaceUp DC. Lots of applause! Applause!